Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Witch on the Holy Night. Now before we begin, we do have something that I need to check out first. Apparently there is a removed part of Chapter 7, which is interesting, that you can only get to by hacking. It is still canon, it's still a scene, but it's not in the game. So we have a YouTube video of it, which we'll be watching here. It apparently is mostly voiced, but I think this version doesn't have the voices synced up to it. The person said, I'll upload the voiced one later, and then never did. But that's fine. So we will start off by watching this scene here, which apparently covers what happens in the 2 hours. So we will check this out. Let's go. So Alice, are you listening? Understood. I'll work on that too, starting tonight. She answered with a sigh and stood up. Obviously, I'm not actually playing, but what was bothering her, and what had she wanted to say? What had she been doing just 2 hours earlier? Whatever it was, she took it with her when she left the table. I think this is from the fan translation as well, not the official one. You can tell by the different font and stuff. 2 hours earlier. All right, let's see. After the girl fell asleep, her dreams mostly consisted of childhood memories. Well, this seems pretty important then. It's a good thing we're watching this. In the northwest of England. Oh yeah, this is important. In an oak forest covered with a thick fog. In a kingdom of birds and beasts that keeps humans away, even in the 20th century. There was the mansion where she was born and raised. Ancient creatures had survived for generations in this little corner of the world. Oh. The descendants of the original sorcerers, who stubbornly protected their own purity, obeying the instructions of their great and perhaps foolish ancestors. She a descendant of Merlin? The girl does not know exactly how many centuries the generations of sorcerers have succeeded each other. The information had certainly been passed down to her mother, but she could only have learned it orally. As a result, no one knows how much time passed since the day her ancestors settled in that land. Well, not Merlin, but Merlin's whole group of people there, right? The tradition had already been completely lost, and both the horse with the horn in the middle of their foreheads and the birds that flapped their wings in the rainbow-colored sky had already disappeared without a trace at the time she was born. On the other hand, if you can say so, her house was filled with a large number of modern furniture and inappropriate to it. They were bad for the environment of the forest and also for the skin of the girl, but as far as she was concerned, she never found them unpleasant. These were souvenirs, offered to her and her mother, both belonging to another era. If she felt love for those objects, it was because in her childish heart, she probably understood that they were gifts from the man who came once a week to visit them from a nearby city. Oh. Even that now has been lost forever. The flamboyant chauffeured Cadillac. The castle-worthy flower garden. All those adults. Everything disappeared like fog. Or perhaps in the fog. Nor the smile overflowing with happiness of her mother, nor the shy one of her father are there anymore. The forest has never tolerated such things. Now there are only questions. The numerous extraneous elements inappropriate to the villa. The luxury items, none of which she had ever wanted. The gifts that inspired her only disgust. In what confusion did she touch them with so lovingly? I don't love the translation on this, I'm gonna be real. Some of it's a bit weird. Also, hey, another shot of her sleeping. This time on the couch. Her closed eyelids moved imperceptibly. An afternoon before the sun sets. The girl, reacting not to the sounds that reach her ears, but those perceived by the villa, slowly regains consciousness. The bluebird emits loud cries, perhaps worried about the girl who keeps her eyelids closed as if she were suffering, opening them and showing two dull eyes. How strange. I dreamed of a bird I saw a long time ago. She spoke to herself as if clinging to the content of a faded dream. Oh, look at him doing hops. Upon hearing the word bird, the robin fidgets as if she were talking about him. Take it easy. I don't remember it very well, but I'm sure of one thing. It wasn't you. Rather, what is that sound? Without stopping to look at him with cold eyes, the girl asks the robin for answers, who lowers his head disappointed. She wants to know the reason why she woke up. Specifically, what the annoying noise coming from the back of the mansion is. Right, yeah, this is a point that we completely dropped, isn't it? The robin, who knows perfectly well what the origin of the noise is, proudly reports it to his mistress. As soon as the girl has her answer, her drowsiness suddenly fades away. So that's it. It is not enough for him to turn my stomach every time I see him. That boy must also torture my ears. The words she leaked out in vain contained gratuitous feelings that had nothing to do with her duties as a witch. Oh, I gotta speak faster. Oh, I gotta speed up. I mean, I guess I could pause the video. A pump that has not been used for a long time makes a gurgling sound. It sure does. I don't like how that sentence is written. The backyard of the Kuwanji mansion. At the edge of the forest that starts towards sunset is a thin shadow. The shadow, embracing the forest with its gaze, cleans the plastic bags buried under the tufts of grass and illegally abandoned bicycle scraps, and from time to time reinforces broken tree branches or cuts trees on a whim. What a disaster. Perhaps it was one of the inhabitants of the mansion. The garbage bags abandoned in the storage room of the mansion were brought there by stray dogs and cruelly torn to pieces. Holding in one hand the bamboo broom he brought with him, the male shadow silently cleans up the garbage. Alice was taking a walk when she came across the figure. The reason that led her to take a walk in the forest, which she does once a month, should be evident by now. Shizuki. Hello, are you going out somewhere? The boy returns the greeting with a light heart. Alice tries to keep her gaze cold and observes the forest. No, I'm not going out. What are you doing like that? I thought you were coming home with Aoko. Where is she? Ozaki is still in school. My part-time job ended early, so I'm killing time here. In the evening, I'll meet Ozaki at the main gate and then return to the mansion with her. I understand, but did you warn her that you would come back sooner? Oh shoot, Sojiro slips out in an anxious tone. You understand you must be in front of the mansion's gate at 5 o'clock. Of course, he counted on scrupulously keeping that promise. However, looking back now, perhaps what she meant was not return to the villa before 5 o'clock. I'm sorry. It would be helpful to me if you didn't say anything to Ozaki. Aoko and I don't talk about you especially, so you don't have to worry. Rather, what are you doing here? You and Aoko have end-of-term exams starting today, right? Are you sure you don't need to study? Huh? If I'm studying, I'll do it right. 2 full hours before going to sleep. Apparently, the boy does not yet possess the wisdom to review carefully before the exam. In a few hours he'll be forced to revise his idea, but now is not yet the time. I was more concerned about the rough condition of the forest than that. How long has it been with no one cleaning up this hill? Oh. You can take that as a no one? Alice does not respond to him. She has lived on this land for about 3 years now, but she does not need to tell him. Perhaps oblivious to Alice's silence, Sojiro picks up the garbage without any interruptions to his rhythm. From the girl's point of view, it is impudence. You. Get out of my sight immediately, the sentence would continue. Ouch! But she is interrupted by a cry that breaks his rhythm. I just kicked something hard just now. At Sojiro's foot lays a rusty mass of metal half buried in the ground. Iron? What is it? This jagged thing seems dangerous. What is it for? Does it close? Sojiro looks curiously at the dangerous object at his feet. He does not seem to know that it is a trap that closed... I was going to say, it sounds like a bear trap. Closed in on the paws of wild animals. It is a trap. It seems to me at one time there were many stray dogs on this hill. It probably dates back to that time. The people of this city have undoubtedly forgotten about it. Stray dogs? Is it an object used to catch dogs? Exactly. I've heard that if you walk on it, those claws close with a spring mechanism. But I've never seen one in action. Is she gonna be like, you should give it a try? Are you serious? I wonder if there are any animals capable of falling into such an obvious trick. To the naive question, Alice responds nodding, you're not all wrong. She had not seen a trap since she was a child, but she always considered it strange. Alice knows how intelligent animals can be. So why, despite this, do they fall into such obvious traps and let themselves be captured by humans? Maybe they put food on it, or something like that? Unwittingly, she gives voice to that thought. Would an animal really approach something that looks so dangerous, just wanting something to eat? You're right, but it depends on the circumstances. If they were starving, not even an animal would be able to resist the temptation. If they were to fall into the trap, at most their legs would be injured. Even though in the danger, they may choose to eat and risk it rather than die of starvation. Yes, that's right. Even if death awaited them at the hands of a hunter, it would be impossible for them to resist starvation. Especially if they were a mother who had to feed her young. A female dog would be willing to sacrifice a leg and risk being killed by a hunter in exchange for some food for her pups. It was a decision they knew was risky from the start. It was a simple story. Animals choose to sacrifice a leg to survive, and the result is that they are killed. Human beings are no different. If they could survive a certain situation by sacrificing only one arm, I think they would. Affirming the girl as if to convince herself, or affirmed rather, but... You think so? In my opinion, human beings and animals are a little different. For the second time, Alice is interrupted by an uncertain voice. Different in what sense? In the sense of being able to save oneself by sacrificing a leg, I think. There's nothing in an animal's body that is superfluous, and they don't have the intelligence to reason. Unlike us, for them there's no possibility of compensating for what they lose by using something else. For an animal, losing a limb is no different from losing their life. I believe that having nothing superfluous means not being able to afford to lose anything. All animals know if they ever lose even a small part of their body, they will no longer be able to survive. So, I think that even if they decide to take a chance after seeing this trap, they don't even remotely think that losing a limb is nothing. From the beginning, they do not think they will save themselves. The moment they agree to lose a leg, it's their life they are giving away. It is an unexpected opinion, but the girl accepts it with an I understand. This boy was not born in the city, grew up in a mountain village that still coexisted with nature. He did not live all his life in a society that armed itself with civilization to protect the weak and the elderly. Until recently, his life did not consist of comfortable inventive days, but of a difficult coexistence with nature. For Sojiro, a wound is undoubtedly something that remains forever. Otherwise he would not be able to describe the way wild animals live in the way he did. He had a point. A horse injured in one leg and unable to run no longer performs the function of a horse, and is no longer considered as such by people. When a wild beast loses the ability to run its limbs, it loses its meaning before it loses its life. But do you think this trap in particular has ever caught prey? Who knows? I didn't place it. At the friendly tone of the question, Alice responded with a firmness of spirit. She unwittingly got involved in the conversation, but from her point of view, this boy is much more of a hindrance than a trap. What's more than that? What are you doing tending to the forest? Are you trying to get into my good graces? Sparks of hostility shone in the girl's eyes. The moment Sojiro tried to flatter her, Alice would move on to handling it in her own way. She passed off ungratefulness. She passed off breaking up with her. She passed off even betrayal. Wait, what? Passed off breaking up with her? What do you mean by that? What? The one thing she could not forgive was being told that words could come from people's hearts. For this girl, this was the worst insult. What do you mean passed off breaking up with her? Huh? Why would it make you happy if I clean the forest? Given its state of neglect, it's clear that neither of you cares that much, right? I think the only one here who would feel better after seeing it cleaned up is me. However, this boy seems to have not understood Alice's hostility in the least. One moment. It is true that I have never cleaned the forest, but that does not mean I hate it. In my own way, I care about it. Strange. If so, then why do you neglect it? I simply do not feel affection for it, even though I care for it. But I regret it. From now on, taking care of the forest will be part of my daily tasks. That being said, you are strange too, you know. What do you find enjoyable about this forest? I'm not strange. I like forests in general, and this hill reminds me a little of the mountain where I was born. Here, if a girl who looks exactly like the one you love was in danger, would it not come naturally to you to try to do something to help her? Where is this coming from? How to say, she's human, isn't she? Concluded Sojiro. What? The last sentence was enough to stir Alice's heart. I'm not convinced. Do you care about that alone? It is actually an allusion to me, isn't it? It's strange that I like this kind of forest. It is but a forest like all others, in which oaks cannot even take root. But even without oaks, it's fine, isn't it? There's nothing meaningless about loving it. I think recognizing when something is beautiful is a very good quality. Even when you don't have a clear reason to do so? Are you telling me that you love all the forests in the world regardless? In this context, you have no reason to love this. There's no connection between you and this forest. Do we need a reason to love something? Huh? The boy spoke in the tone of someone who was intrigued by something. He is not rhetorically asserting that love does not need reasons. Rather, he is asking whether all these irrational feelings should be considered false. Her boiling heart gradually cooled down. Ashamed of her own harsh tone, the girl takes a step back. Awkward silence. Yep, that's what it is. Alice looks for words that will save her face. As long as it remains silent, their positions are reversed. Yet this is her forest. This is her world. At the thought that leaving the last word to such a wretched human being jeopardizes her honor as a witch, the girl bites her lip. Well, rat-it. Do you want to keep this? Oh, wait, was that him? Oh, no, it was him. For his part, Sojiro, completely unaware of the storm, the girl's heart extends his hand towards the trap. Do you want to keep this? It is of no use to me. Now that I told you, it is not mine. Yeah, understood. Then I'll throw it away. It is too rusty to snap, but it is a dangerous object. It reminds me of a dog's teeth. If I left it here, I'd end up dreaming about it at night. Sojiro lifts the heavy pile of iron. The boy walks up to the shade of the tree and drops the trap on his strange object. Shizuki, where did you get that cart? Well, in a shop in this... Oh, no. I brought it thinking you never know. It turns out I was right. Lately, I don't know why I get these bad feelings. The mysterious master of volunteering begins to cheerfully pull the cart. Seeing his smile, Alice finally understands the extent to which it is a waste of time trying to argue with this boy. Yes, I was foolish to speak to him. Turning her back on Sojiro, the girl returns to the mansion. It is exactly what Aoko said. Thinking with regret with how much time she wasted, Alice promises to ignore the boy. Alright. That was the scene. That was the scene. Alright, because that's the end there. Cool. Yeah. That had a few things that are interesting. The stuff about the person you love is very intriguing. I actually have no idea who that's talking about. Huh. Other than that, just a little bit of a look into the life and knowing about Alice's descending from the original mages. That is really interesting. All right, well, let's return to the game proper. So we're here. I love being able to just switch immediately. It's the good stuff. Let's hit that continue button. Are you for real? We are. Next episode. So is this going to be the one that we saw there? 8. Are you for real? Oh, no, I guess not. Oh, yeah. Well, this is about the same thing, roughly. Misaki High School's winter vacation began in mid-December. The tranquil air of the school was a refreshing change of pace from the more competitive schools and their nationally famous sports teams and exam-oriented curriculum. God, I much prefer this font. The empty, newly constructed building evoked images of a pure white swan descending upon a still winter lake. The modern school building felt alive in its stillness in spite of the absence of its lifeblood of students. Most students never knew what this building used to look like. It was just a small, run-down wooden building, a shadow of its former self. The former school was never torn down and now stood in lonely silence. It was tucked away deep in a seemingly infinite wood that stretched across the mountains. The sound of brooms sweeping the dead leaves resonated in the air. The ocean of leaves had accumulated into piles as big as sand dunes. Sweeping was a futile venture at this point. An ominous feeling lingered in the air, perhaps a result of 2 years of abandonment. Cleaning the inside of the building alone would take more than a few days to finish. Not to mention...
本当だり、存在価値が見出せねえ。ばっかじゃねえの。冬休みは短いってのになんでこんなことやらせんだよ、生徒会は。
Oh, nice. That's the classic taiga jacket, too. The misguided youth sent here for the job wasted no time making it clear he wanted no part in the beautification efforts.
っていうか、ジャージでやらせんなよ。ジャンパーぐらい着させろよな。何これ、もしかして体育の報酬？寒中マラソン？俺体育だけはサボったことねえんすけどね。
Hosuke Kinomi continued to mumble and grumble to himself as he reluctantly swept away at the ground. Yo, there he is. Meanwhile, Sojiro silently and swiftly continued his sweeping, glaring at Kinomi out of the corner of his eye. It is really funny that I'm looking at this and like, what a good outfit. And then I think to myself, that's what mysterious heroine X wears.
おい、何真面目にやってんだよ。こんなの適当でいいんだって。だいたい40人しかいねえのにこんな山みたいな庭の掃除なんか終わるかってんだ。
終わらないことなんてない。少しうるさいぞ、木の実は。
Kinomi went back to idly swinging his broom without even glancing over at Sojiro. Mornings on the mountain were cold. There was no hint of sun in the cloudy sky above. Ash-gray light illuminated the rear courtyard. The sharp cold of midwinter pierced through everyone's gloves as if they did not exist. A day like this was best spent indoors under warm blankets, but for some reason, they were out here cleaning. The Special Winter Cleaning Team. That was the name given to this elite force, sent to clean up this dilapidated, overgrown mountain. The other students had put their faith into this team to fulfill this beautification mission, respecting them for their sacrifice. The reality, however, was that this was nothing more than a ragtag, dare-losing gang of students needing remedial lessons before their exams. They were the victims of a year-long arm-twisting scheme by the student council. Who in their right mind would come out here to sweep up leaves with a blizzard looming on the horizon? Other than one of the 40 assembled, none of them had any semblance of interest in the task at hand.
おい、見ろよ、しずき。赤羽たち向こうで焼き芋とかレトロな真似してやがる。
Hey, sweet potatoes are amazing. Like, honestly, when I walk down, like, there's so many sweet potato carts here, people just frying them up and you can just buy them. It's so good. It smells so good.
戦時はいかにも頭悪いしな。そうだ。俺たちはイカでも焼かねえ？
Kinomi did not want to be here to begin with and was constantly trying to break Sojiro into joining him. The cleaning squad was divided into groups. Sojiro and Kinomi were in charge of cleaning behind the gymnasium. Sojiro was the leader of the platoon, Kinomi was the grunt.
ああ、こことあっちの垣根をきれいにしたら、焼き芋だろうと焼きイカだろうと猫鍋だろうと好きにしよう。その頃にはちょうどお昼だ。
Boy, they really gave him gloves, too. Sojiro said as he expertly packed his swept leaves into trash bags. 2 hours had passed since they assembled on this foggy morning at 7 o'clock. While everyone else chatted and laughed as they worked, Sojiro alone had worked in complete silence at the same blistering pace since he started. The sheer amount of work he put in was likely the only thing keeping him from complaining of the cold in his thin jersey.
なあ、やめようぜ。見ろ、そこの池、スケートリンク。やっぱ池？ とにかくそこの池らしきものだってカチカチに凍ってるぐらいなんだぜ。こんな雪原じゃ人体は普通動かねえよ。機械伯爵でもなきゃだよ。そろそろ人間狩りが始まるよ。
Sorry, we're gonna have to start eating each other? Oh, right, that's a reference to the plane crash with the people eating each other in the blizzard. Yeah, we watched that in school, and it talks about the morality of that.
なんでいい加減休憩しね。せっかく枯葉集めたんだから燃やして温まんないとさ。どうせ監視役は殿下しかいないんだしさ。なあ、焼きイカやろうぜ。焼きイカ。
You just want to set things on fire, buddy. For some reason, Kinomi was droning on about his squid. Sojiro had managed to withstand the barrage of complaints from his comrade, but even he was reaching his limit.
木の実頼むから。
Just then, Sojiro saw the Grim Reaper himself creeping behind Kinomi. In his hands, he held a rake instead of a soft bamboo broom.
いいぜ。お前がイカなんてもんを用意してるほどの大人物だってんなら、慎んでイカ焼きぐらい許可してやるよ。なんなら醤油はこっちで用意してやろう。
Kinomi shot to attention at the voice behind him.
その物言い、築地なにがし。
Before quickly turning around, swinging his broom in the process. Tobimaru easily blocked the swing with his rake. Ooh, parried.
ああ、てめえ、やる気十分じゃねえか。溢れる労働意欲を抑えきれないってわけか。なんならシベリアコースにでも行っちまうか。
女ども集めて焼却炉に陣取ってる野郎の言葉なんざ聞かねえよ。真冬に南国気分とかマジ寒いわ。
Both boys glared at each other with a wry smile, broom and rake locked in an embrace. These two were only friendly with each other on school grounds.
飛び丸、一応彼は戦力なんだから邪魔しないでくれ。
Both of them scoffed angrily and put away their weapons. They both knew better than to argue with Sojiro, the only one cleaning with a garbage bag in hand.
それで何しに来たんだ飛び丸。君はあったかい焼却炉の前で永遠に火の管理をすると
Dang, you know
豪
it's
語して
bad
い
when
たん
he
じゃなか
calls
った
you
っ
out.
け。
A harsh comment. Apparently even Sojiro had a slight taste for drama.
なんてこった。善良な生徒ですら俺をそんな目で見るのか。
Tobimaru seemed sad at Sojiro's observation, but as long as Tobimaru continued to claim he was helping the girls clean by doing nothing more than standing in front of the pile of burning leaves, Sojiro found it hard to sympathize.
いいから要件を言えよ。殿下と違って俺らは暇じゃねえんだ。
ああ、そうかよ。宗次郎、そろそろ小休止だ。向こうで温まろうよ。
お、なんだブレイクかよ。話せるじゃん殿下。
ああ、てめえは除外に決まってんだ。
Dang.
特権は功労者にのみ与えられるもんだ。焼却炉の前に来たけりゃ、それ相応の貢ぎ物を持ってきやがれ。具体的に言うと、リアカー1台分のゴミ袋な。
ひでえ、生徒会応募。
To be fair, you have done nothing. Kinomi's complaints naturally fell on deaf ears. Tobimaru had been selected to lead the cleaning operation, and his word was final. If Kinomi were to continue to push his buttons, he knew he would be on cleaning duty tomorrow morning and the next day too.
さあ、行くぞ。誰の趣味か知らねえが、なぜか汁粉の缶が山ほどあってな。中華まんの一つでもあった方が気が利くってもんなんだがね。あれか、遭難用のチョコレートみたいなもんか。
Still have not tried Oshiroku or the sweet red bean soup.
たく、あいつの考えは未だにわかんねえな。
Sojiro reassured Tobimaru by saying that he thought that the food would do just fine for everyone.
なんだよ。行かねえのか、掃除。
ああ、自分はここに残るよ。旦なら木の実の言うように葉を燃やせばいい。そこに池もある。火の始末なら安心だ。
Setting anything on fire in a uncontained area is a bad idea. But okay, this was clearly for Konomi's benefit. Tobimaru furrowed his brow while Konomi shivered from the cold.
俺は今友情ってもんを実感している。すげえな。真心って本当にあったんだ。くそ、待ってろしずき。今赤羽たちから芋を奪ってくる。
Perhaps shy to show his true feelings, Konomi ran off to the neighboring group.
な、 予想はしてたけどな。ほらよ。
Tiopmaniac pulled out a hot can from his jersey pocket, scratching his head in exasperation. He pulled out 3 in all, one from each jersey pocket and one from his pants
さ
pocket.
っさと焚き火の用意をしようぜ。俺もこっちで休むことにするわ。
付き合いがいいのはお互い様だな。
Sojiro quickly prepared the leaves for the fire, carefully gathering them up for them to burn neatly.
慣れてるな。
Then again, yeah, I guess if there's one person who can know how to safely put on a fire, I guess it would be
マ
Sojiro.
ッチがあるから楽なんだ。
Sojiro crouched down in front of the burning leaves and warmed his hands near the flames. Even though he showed no signs of being cold underneath it all, well, Sojiro was cold too. He gazed into the fire as the smoke rose from the pile of leaves, as if remembering the good times from his past. Tiopmaniac felt a touch of concern as he looked at Sojiro. He saw within him homesickness and retrospection. He also saw a dark shadow looming over him like a stranger in a foreign land without a home.
元気ねえな、宗次郎。
まあね、少し疲れてる。
悩み事なら相談に乗るぜ。気が向いたら話してくれ。
Oh, buddy, it's about stuff that you would not understand. Tiopmaniac continued speaking with the pull tab from the can of sweet red bean soup still around his index finger. Sojiro was focused on the fire.
そういえばな、お前が学校休んでる時、青崎に殴られたぜ。なんでも俺は大ボラ吹きだそうだ。
Should have parried, bro.
すごいな。大抜擢じゃないか。
Sometimes Sojiro would reply incoherently like this. Tiopmaniac chalked it up to cultural differences.
なあ、青崎とはどうなってんだ？テスト前は駅まで一緒に帰ってただろ？うまくいってんのか？あれから。
It was obvious to everyone that this was far from the case, yet Tiopmaniac asked anyway.
ああ、今は一緒に住んでるよ。
Oh. Oh my god, we're just telling people. I thought this was going to be a secret. Sojiro went with the truthful, blunt response.
ああ、そうか。一緒と来たか。
Huh. Tiopmaniac tried to laugh off Sojiro's all too casual confession, however.
一緒に住んでるぞ。
どうした飛び丸。火でも飛んだか。
Oh my god.
飛んでねえし。
Oh my god.
それより怖え。おい、今の聞き捨てならねえたわごとは
I bet
本当の
you.
話か？
I bet you Aoko and Alice were just like, he won't tell people, right? He won't. There's no way. He knows to keep it a secret, and nope. Sojiro protested Tiopmaniac's reply with silence.
その余裕、マジか。女に興味なさそうな顔してて、やることやってんじゃねえかてめえ。
Tiopmaniac had always felt that he and Sojiro were an equal match strength-wise, but for some reason he could not quite shake the feeling that Sojiro was now a superior in the brain department. Sojiro cast a rare angry glare in Tiopmaniac's direction.
こっちこそ聞き捨てならない。なんだ、その女に興味はないってのは。
Sojiro seemed genuinely angry and his voice was icy. This uncharacteristic level of anger from Sojiro was enough to get Tiopmaniac to back down.
いや、悪い。そんな雰囲気あったんだよ、お前さんは。それは謝る。けどよ、青崎と一緒に住んでるってどういうことだ？いくらなんでも一足飛びすぎだろ。
How's he gonna explain this?
別に君が期待しているようなことはない。彼女が住んでいるところの部屋を借りることになっただけだ。屋根の裏にある部屋なんだけど、板張りで山小屋を思い出す。
I was gonna say, yeah, you would like it more. Tiopmaniac did not bat an eyelid at hearing that Sojiro now lived in an attic and continued his questioning.
屋敷ってあのクオンジの屋敷か。
So they do know she lives there. Okay.
それこそまさかだぜ。宗十郎、お前一体どんな手品を使いやがった？
Oh my god, why would you use that saying, oh please don't have him go? No, I'm not the wizard.
飛び丸こそあの家を知ってるのか？
Good. We're not going that way.
そりゃな。これでも築地家期待の跡取り候補だぜ、俺は。クオンジグループのご令嬢が住んでる屋敷ぐらいは知ってるさ。霊園女学院の2年生だろ、確か。
クオンジ何？
Sojiro was looking more confused than ever, so Tobimaru reluctantly explained everything as simply as he could so Sojiro could understand.
クオンジグループ。つうか、財団だな。
I think this isn't the first time we've heard of this, I'm pretty sure. If it is, it's not surprising.
平たく言えば、一族全部がお金持ちで、仲良く会社を経営してる連中だと思えばいい。
Hmm.
複合企業とまではいかないが、輸出業じゃかなりのもんだ。
Not exactly a Zaibatsu just yet.
ホームグラウンドは国外で、先代の会長の英国 B 機がたたって、一時期は沈みかけてたんだが、5年くらい前かね。
So there are...
拠地をこっちに移してからは、
Okay. Japanese in origin, obsessed with England, makes Alice be English, kind of. And then, but they are Japanese, okay.
会長が息子に移ってからはきちんと持ち直して、今や町の名士だろ。ここでもクオンジの名前はそこかしこで目に入る。この学校の立て直し予算の半分は連中からだしな。
Despite the oversimplified explanation, Sojiro still seemed to not be getting it. With that, Tobimaru decided to give up trying to explain.
あれだ。想像もできない金持ちってこと。
And yet they still ask for rent.
ソの字が働いてる喫茶店だって、クオンジが向こうから持ってきたブランドだぜ。今じゃ全国チェーンになっちまったがな。
つまりすごく偉いんだね。おかしいな。
Yeah.
ならなんであんなに倹約してるんだろう。
Sojiro mumbled incoherently to himself. Tobimaru looked at him with a complex expression on his face, somewhere between envy and heartfelt sympathy.
しかし、うまいことやったな、宗十郎。それで、本当のところはどうなんだ？男と女が同じ屋根の下にいれば、やることは一つだろ？
Nope.
案外古いな、飛び丸も。
抜かせ。そのあたりをごまかしてたら、男なんざやってらんねえ。
そりゃごもっとも。実を言うと。
Alright, now here's the question. Here's the question. Does Sojiro know what sex is? Though Sojiro and Aoko were living together, there was absolutely no chemistry between them. Though that was not to say that living in such close quarters as they did, unintended mishaps did not occur from time to time. Oh, are we gonna get the "Yeah, you acted at me changing" scene that's always in these? But even still.
驚くぐらい、そういうことにはなってない。あの屋敷すごく広いし。
Yeah, the fact you can, like, not see someone all day. Everyone was often busy with their own affairs, so there was no opportunity for that sort of thing to happen.
そもそもだな。もし飛び丸だったら、下宿先が同じってことだけで、青崎に言い寄る気になるかい？
いや、ならねえな。
Mm-hmm. Tobimaru nodded intently, as if thinking back over his many ex-relationships.
いや、健全だな。
ああ、健全だろ。
Sojiro gave no more than a quick affirmation to Tobimaru's despondent murmur. He was doing fine. But besides his physical health, it was surely Sojiro's personality that enabled him to maintain any semblance of peace dealing with both Aoko and Alice while living in that mansion.
でも、それとは別の話で、青崎には頭が上がらないんだ。彼女にはもう返せない借りがあってさ。
Sojiro's eyes turned slightly serious as he stared into the fire. Tobimaru felt that there was more to those words than what Sojiro was letting on.
もう返せない借りだ。
Sojiro merely nodded in silence at Tobimaru's inquisitive acknowledgement. And just then, a strange scream pierced through the still silence of the wood like a knife. Oh?
なんか聞こえたな。
It didn't play, huh?
ああ、木の実だ。
Oh. Sojiro had already stood up before he responded. He bolted to the frozen pond, broke the ice with his broom, and scooped up the frigid water in a bucket and threw it on the fire, all in less than 10 seconds. Nice. Then he immediately ran off into the depths of the woods from where he heard the scream. Tobimaru followed after him in panicked confusion. Uh-oh.
飛び丸、この先に何かあるのか？
確か、旧校舎が残ってるはずだ。
他には、野犬の住処とか、そういう嫌な話は？
はあ？いや、いるとしても
Oh, I
鹿
don't
か
know.
ウサギじゃねえか。
Deer? Have you seen the frame data on that deer? And rabbits? I mean, Catholic League.
なら怖がることもないか。急ごう、飛び。
Perhaps because of his time spent growing up in the mountains, Sojiro quickly sprinted over the slippery dead leaves. Tobimar was not particularly cautious himself, but nevertheless he could not keep up with Sojiro in here. Before long, Sojiro found himself running alone. When piles of leaves blocked the natural path trail, he would sometimes knock them out of the way with both hands and sometimes expertly slip through them. It was clear that he was used to dealing with this level of nature. After a few minutes, Sojiro arrived at a clearing. Yep, this is a fighting game arena. Look at this. The wall of trees had ended. It was an obviously man-made clearing here on the mountainside. In the distance was what looked like an old wooden school building. It was a small, aesthetically pleasing building, no larger than an elementary school, lost in the depths of the winter wilderness. I don't know if I would call that aesthetically pleasing myself, but hey, go off, man.
Kinomi!
Kinomi stood alone on the old school's grounds.
なんでしずきまで追いかけてきたん
Huh? A sour expression came over Sojiro's face as Kinomi tilted his head in confusion.
そっちこそどうしたんだ変な声上げて。
声いや、そりゃガキ相手に怒鳴ったけどよ。ほら、あのガキだよ。芋持ってるだろ。であ、中に逃げ込みやがった。
This is all for your potato quest? Kinomi pointed resentfully toward the old school building. There was indeed somebody standing at the entrance to the building, just over 300 feet in the distance.
たく、こんな上まで来やがって。いつから子供の遊び場になってんだ、ここ。
Kinomi shrugged his shoulders to signal how little he cared what the young children did with their time. This place was deep in the woods, but it was not particularly dangerous. Sojiro had run through the wood to get there, but there was also a paved road leading to this spot from outside the woods, too. Kinomi apparently followed that road to get here.
ん子供
Sojiro squinted.
ああ、金髪なんでさっきはちょっと驚いたけどな。外国人の子供ってなんか怖いだろ
Hey. He at least called him a Gaikokujin, which is the more, the nicer way to say Gaijin. So at least, if he's being xenophobic, at least he's doing it with a little bit more respect. It's not really xenophobic. It is just their word for foreign, but I feel like that's a loaded word no matter how you say it. It was indeed quite rare to see a foreigner in a provincial town such as Misaki. Sojiro had never even seen a foreigner in person, which made the whole thing even more mysterious. Okay. 100% confirmation, Alice is a born and bred Japanese woman.
それで木の実はなんでここまで
いや、赤羽たちがよ、ガキに食料奪われたって言うからここまで追いかけてきたんだ。そういうことだから、二人がかりであのお子様とっちめようぜ。
怖いことを考えるな、木の実は。
Eh. In the world of potatoes, hands are rated E for everyone. Sojiro could not find it in him to agree with this plan. It seemed unfair to team up against a little kid.
いいから帰ろう。あの子こっちを睨んでるじゃないか。それに飛び丸にこんなところ見られたら、冬休み中ずっと山の掃除で終わることになるぞ。
Sojiro took Kinomi by the shoulders and began leading him back to the path he came from. Kinomi cast one last gaze out at the old school building before reluctantly following. Just then, Tobimaru appeared, panting and out of breath.
早いな、宗次郎。
He's a mounted man. Take me by the hand. Lead me to the ocean, I guess, because if it's backwards. Tobimaru could hardly catch his breath. He arrived about 3 minutes behind Sojiro, despite having a good set of legs on him.
それでどうした？木の実、無事か？
He had just picked a fight with a child.
はあ？無事も何も殿下こそ取ったん。
Kinomi seemed perplexed at Tobimaru's first ever display of concern for him.
なんだそりゃ。てめえ、あれだけの大声を上げておいて、しらばっくれる気か？上で何かあったんだろうが。
すまない。こっちの早とちりだった。飛び丸は知らないだろうけど、木の実は時々バイト先でも規制を上げる癖があるんだ。
He just screams sometimes. Kinomi looked disapprovingly as Sojiro nonchalantly shared his insight. This was the first he'd ever heard of it.
怪しいな。またよからぬことでも企んでるんじゃねえか？そう。
ないよ。戻って掃除の続きをするぞ、飛び丸。
Sojiro pat Tobimaru on the shoulder a couple times and started walking. Tobimaru cast a doubtful glare in his direction as he meandered off. He had a feeling that Sojiro was covering for Konomi somehow.
まさか旧校舎に火なんてつけてないだろうな。
See, what that I made the joke about him being a pyromaniac, and then the game does.
誰もしないよ、そんなことは。
Sojiro kept walking and did not even look back at Tobimaru as he spoke. Tobimaru and Konomi tilted their head in confusion as they reluctantly followed the unusually aggressive Sojiro back to their cleaning spot. He just really wants to clean. He just really wants to clean. And so the special winter cleaning team's activities ended uneventfully. The time was 3 in the afternoon. Upon departing, Konomi and his crew invited Sojiro to come hang out with them, but he politely declined due to his job that evening. He had about 2 hours until his shift began. Not quite enough time to do anything fun, but just enough to have to fill it with something. God, the world before cell phones, I can't even imagine that. Sojiro thought about relaxing in a park somewhere, but quickly changed his mind after remembering how cold it was, even in the city. Not to forget that Aoko handed him those pills in the morning. Aoko was absolutely correct in her prediction. Heading back to the mansion now would just be a waste of time. There was no reason for him to return to the mansion until after his shift at work. Still, Sojiro found himself on the way back anyway. Having grown up deep in the mountains, a little 2-hour walk was really no sweat off his back. Misaki was one of the more quiet residential areas in Misaki City. It's hard to parse that Misaki is a part of Misaki City, but that's fair, I guess. The only thing that really stood out there was Shiro Inuzuka. It was a hill that led to the mountains, served as the backdrops to suburbia, silently overshadowing the small human actions of the people who lived there. Even in this modern day of technological progress, the people here were always careful to pay reverence to the nature around them. If that mansion were a shrine, it would not be a haunted house, but a famous tourist attraction.
というより、今更気づいたけど。
The houses around Shiro Inuzuka were all magnificent. Sojiro understood as he looked from the bottom of the hill, where the rest of the town lived at the roof of the mansion tucked away in the woods. He understood what Tobimaru was talking about how the Kuwanji family, who owned that mansion, might be the richest people in town.
その割に家賃を取るところを見ると、
Yeah,
やっぱり嫌われていると見る
it's
と。
so mean. Sojiro began walking towards the mansion with such thoughts simmering in his mind. The feeling of the hard asphalt beneath his feet instead of the soft dirt felt lonely and isolating. He walked along the paved road for 10 minutes or so before reaching the iron fence of the wood. Beyond this fence was the private property of the Kuwanji family. It was bereft of any awkward no trespassing signs. The tall, overbearing iron fence was more than enough to remind visitors that they are unwelcome there. Sojiro casually pushed on the iron gate. Only 2 days had passed since the end of the final exams, and he already seemed more than comfortable with the idea of entering this wood alone. The path to the mansion from inside the wood curved and bent like a snake. It took about 15 minutes to reach the mansion on this path. He could have chosen to ignore the long incline and travel in a straight line through the wood, but he would have expended significantly more energy in doing so. No, using the wooded path was the sensible option, barring an emergency. Upon entering the foyer, Sojiro heard a conversation coming from the drawing room. It was no doubt Aoko and Alice. Sojiro decided to join them. Ever since final exams had ended, Aoko and Alice had switched from their daily routine to a more irregular schedule. Aoko would disappear into Alice's room in the west wing of the mansion for a while, where she would remain. And Alice would go into Aoko's room, not to be seen again, where they would vanish into the corridors, leading around to the rear of the mansion doing, well, who knows what, where Sojiro was most certainly not allowed to enter. Not that he was interested in what they were doing, since Aoko and Alice did not seem to want to include him either, serving both parties nicely. For the time being, the Kuwanji estate was, well, pretty peaceful.
ただいま。
Sojiro quietly opened the door to the drawing room. Even though they tried not to be involved in each other's business, Sojiro made it a habit to greet them. The two girls sat across from him on the sofa. On the table in front of them was a large, extravagantly decorated mirror. Aoko was dressed for comfort, wearing jeans instead of her usual skirt. In stark contrast, Alice was dressed in her usual all black. Even though the break from school was well underway, the witch still insisted on wearing black. Well, I mean, she is a witch. As Aoko had explained, it was probably because it was too much effort for Alice to wear anything else. Sojiro's thought was that he would like to see her wear something different. We've seen a couple little, I mean, it's all black still, but a few different outfits. It's cute. Still black, though. Aoko and Alice seemed to be in the middle of some sort of dispute. The air in the drawing room was tense. They both ignored his greeting. Alice only briefly looked at him.
じゃあ、東川の視点は あそこの柱は白色だし、そう簡単には奪われないでしょ。
ええ。今のところ当川は侵食されていないけど、一つ隣の鈴穂の視点が消された以上、楽観はできないわ。
What are they talking
Look.
about?
そっか。一個釣れれば、あとは芋づる式だもんね。
Are these ley line like points?
反省したわ。甘く見てたのはこっちの方だった。ここからは、1週間単位の攻防になるわね。
His stupid little just standing there, arms behind. The two continued their heated discussion from opposite sides of the table. Aoko neglected to even glance up at Sojiro. Sojiro sensed that she wanted to concentrate on the discussion at hand.
でも解せないな。あの夜に人形を出してくるタイミングといい、隠し方だけは一級品なうちの視点を短期間で特定することといい。
Oh geez, I wonder
まず間違いなく市内にアジトを敷いてるわよね。
I wonder where this hideout might be.
なのに、なんで結界に異常がないんだろう。三崎市一帯の索敵網は、もう100年近く破られたことがないのに。
Aoko bit her nails nervously, while Alice nodded along. It seemed as though she was wondering the same thing.
母も、ここの結界には触れなかった。岬の結界をかいくぐるには、あなたのおじいさんか、それ以上の技量を持つ魔術師でないと難しい。けど、それほどの魔術師なら逆に、気配は隠しきれない。何か特殊な音響法かもしれないわね。ここ数年、新しいサークルの話は聞かないけど。
Oh boy, fairies. That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing we're not going to get into for a bit.
何？シャーウッドの森？
Oh!
メイキングなら以前、アリスの霧が粉砕したじゃない。あれ以上の音響があるっていうの？
It's funny because, Robin. Yeah. Okay.
例えばの話よ。今回の相手は、こちら以上の技量を持っているか、こちらの知らない技術を持っているか。どちらにせよ、評価を改めるべきね。私たち。
The two fell silent. Sojiro, after some internal deliberation, decided to break the silence.
や、ただいま。
Aoko finally looked at him in response to his hesitant declaration.
いいからお風呂に入ってきたら。汚れてるわよ、宗十郎。
Get out of here, you stinky! And with that, Aoko returned her gaze to the mirror. Alice briefly looked up at Sojiro again before also returning her gaze to the mirror. Perhaps feeling at least somewhat satisfied that his greeting was acknowledged, Sojiro left the drawing room and closed the door behind him. It's like, I really am a stinky boy. Aoko was right, his clothes were a little
そう
soiled.
だな。もったいないけど、確かに。
Sojiro returned to his room, thinking that a bath might actually feel pretty nice in this cold weather, despite not really having broken a sweat at all during the day. He climbed the stairs from the foyer and up the second flight in the attic. Unlike the other rooms in the mansion, this one had no frills to its decor. It was a little cumbersome to use as a living space, but comfortable enough for Sojiro. Everywhere else in the mansion was a little too gaudy for his tastes. As far as shelter and a place to sleep went, Sojiro was more than satisfied with his accommodations. There was no electricity in the attic. The only light was that which crept in from a small skylight. Not that Sojiro minded, he was more accustomed to living without electricity than living with it. With only the faint winter light to guide him, he ready to change his clothes and a towel before heading down to the foyer. Despite the magnificent size of the mansion, there was only one bath in the whole building, and not a particularly large one at that. Whoever the architect was, he or she must not have thought a bath would be so important, or perhaps they were not the bath type. Sojiro descended to the foyer and made his way to the back of the stairs. He knocked on the door to the bath. As expected, there was no answer from the other side. The only other two occupants of the mansion were still talking in the drawing room. After confirming it was unoccupied, Sojiro quietly entered the bathroom. Even though Sojiro was not aware of it himself, as was common for him, the only hobby he had acquired since coming down from the mountain was taking a nice, relaxing bath. Sojiro had left, but the two girls were still locked in their heated discussion. Needless to say, the topic of their conversation was still that of the outsider mage who appeared in Misaki City last month. This was, after all, the problem that had occupied their time before this whole situation with Sojiro arose, dealing with and eliminating the interloper who had set his or her sights on their territory.
今まではおとりにばっかり食いついてたから甘く見てたけど、それも計算づくだったのかしらね。こっちが油断してる隙に本命を一つ奪われた。この相手との戦いはこれからが本番ってことか。
The situation was growing more dire by the day. Until only a couple days ago, the enemy had limited themselves to small skirmishes, but now they had shifted to a full-on offensive. Aqua had two major bounded fields she used for defense. One, the larger of the two, was placed around Misaki City to detect magical energy and magecraft. This was used to observe and monitor visitors from outside the city and was initially set up by Ozaki's ancestors, the administrators of this territory, and had no way to be removed. The other was set up to energize and maintain ley lines from within the territory. The 5 sigils carved into the earth made up a standard square-type array. I was going to say, how do you 5 to make a square, but then I guess 1 in the center, protecting all that lay within its bounds. After some manipulation of the mana flow, the power within was directed to accumulate at the Kuonji estate. That is to say, the bounded field exists to monopolize the magical energy within Misaki City. There were 5 sigils in total, with the Kuonji estate located in the center. If all 5 were forcibly removed, Aqua's jurisdiction over this territory would be in title only. Without the powered lands to back them up, they would be forced to fight back against their invaders on equal ground, with only their own innate abilities to protect them. The only reason Alice and the inexperienced Aoko were able to defend this territory so far was because of these 2 fields. The dragnet that notified Aozaki of any threats were also her lifeline. But this time, the enemy had somehow slipped through the cracks and was running rampant. This was what the girls had to face up to.
どちらにせよ時間の問題ね。視点がすべて潰されたら、いよいよここでの籠城になるけど。いいの？青子。
ん？別にいいんじゃないの？アリスの言う通り、残りの視点を消されるのは時間の問題なんだし。そりゃ敵のアジトを発見できれば同じだけど、それは絶対必要ってわけでもないでしょ？
She's taking a let them come to us
視点を消されても
approach.
私にはあんまり関係ないし。何より館の守りはあんたがいる限り万全だしね。あっちの方からやってきてくれるなら、それこそ飛んで火にいるよ。他に心配事なんてないでしょ。
そうね。敵が一人だけなら、その時は鏡の範囲をここに集中させて戦場にすればいい。
Alice touched the mirror on the table with her pale fingers. The surface of the mirror rippled like water. The mirror was another protector of Misaki City, separate from Aozaki's bounded fields. More accurately, it was a ploy that existed only to protect Alice Kuonji rather than Misaki City itself. It generated a thick fog and acted as an invitation to any outsiders, drawing them into its board game-like world. Huh. Wait, hold up. Hold up. Hold the phone. I need to just quickly search something. If I go to the board game apocalypse event from FGO, was that a ploy? Or was that something else that drew them into it? I don't it's not gonna say, because these are all just gonna be, yeah, it's, if we go to the, where's the thing, what would I even be looking for? No, it wouldn't even be here. I don't know, man. Because have ploys appeared in FGO? I type it in and I don't see anything, so I'm guessing not. Please ignore the explosions as usual. Alice referred to it only as the Mirror, but it was known to her friends as the Mirror of Slumber. This was a magecraft that Alice Kuonji wielded. It is right behind me. Within the rippling surface of the mirror, an image of a castle began to form, and also a lush forest, a field, and a river. Ako stared at the mirror in silence, before suddenly jumping to her feet off the sofa.
そうと決まれば、あとは行動あるのみね。出かけるわよ、アリス。とにかく現場を見ないことには始まらない。
Alice let out a tired sigh in response to Aoko's determination, then gave the mirror a gentle caress. The sound of dripping water filled the room. The mirror began to consume the table in a thick fog with a single caress from Alice.
順番に回るのなら、帰るのは朝になるわね。
まあまあ、そう億劫がらないで。ところでアリス、火の五芒星の大挙ってこうだっけ？
Alco traced the shape in the air with her fingers. She mimed a star shape, starting from the top, moving down to the right, then to the upper left, and so on. Yeah, it's like that's the star shape.
そろそろ壊すこと以外も覚えないとダメよ、青子。
Alice sat up from the sofa, letting out a heavy sigh. They both took their coats from their hangers and left the drawing room.
失礼ね。私だって日々成長してるわよ。この間のおまじないだってちゃんと成功したんだから。
おまじない？
簡単な暗示の呪文。ほら、アリスが教えてくれた軽く弱く、うまく早く、チクタクチクタク、急げや急げってやつ。
それ、本当？
ほんともほんと。後で総重量に聞いてみなさい。
That's what made him do his crazy leap. Alice swallowed her words, clearly displeased. She luckily stopped herself in time to realize it was not worth the effort to take issue with it.
けど、留守中、その彼はどうするの？
大丈夫でしょう。アリスの西館と開かずの間に入らなきゃ即死するようなことは。
Alco responded hastily as she opened the door to the foyer. As soon as she did, uh-oh, is he gonna be naked? Just as quickly as Alice's doubts had gotten stuck in her throat, Alco suddenly froze, unable to speak. Is he gonna be naked? Naked! Naked Jakey!
ですって。
For a moment, Alco wasn't sure who was standing before her. She could only stare at the glinting rays of sunlight creeping into the room as she reeled from the shock. Her mind was completely blank. It was as if she had just woken up from a nap or a jack-in-the-box had just opened in her face. Sodra was probably the only person who truly knew how long that dumbfounded silence went on.
あんた、こんなところで何してるのよ、一体。
Aqua had finally found her voice.
何って着替えてるんだけど。
Oh my god, he's kind of ripped, isn't he? He's kind of freaking ripped. Okay, so it's only his neck, the thing. But he has like scars on his arms too. Jeez, boy, you are a very ripped dude. Sodro's response was matter of fact. He offered no explanation as to why he was changing the foyer, not the bathroom. Alco was too shocked to read him the riot act. Sodro was putting a shirt on after presumably just getting out of the bath. His neck was still wrapped in bandages and he was completely shirtless. His hair was wet, but his skin wasn't glistening from the steam of hot water. He must have washed himself with nothing more than cold water. Though shocked as to why anyone would do such a thing in this cold weather, she let it slide. The source of her silent stupor was simply his body. Until now, she'd only seen him as harmless. Without his clothing to hide him, however, he was more fit than she'd ever imagined. For a rough mountain upbringing where one's body and strength meant survival, perhaps he was even a little bit underdeveloped. And on top of that...
それ、傷跡なの？
Ako asked cautiously. Sodro followed her gaze. He had something that looked like a burn scar on his arm. It was random in appearance, nothing like Ako's magic crest with its ordered patterns.
ああ、これか。ずいぶん前に野犬の群れに襲われて噛みつかれたんだ。
Oh.
命があっただけでも幸運だから、傷跡ぐらいはご愛嬌だ。
A long time ago, he must have been talking about when he was a child. Though his life was saved, it was apparent that he hadn't been able to receive proper treatment deep in the mountains where he lived. Those scars were proof of that. Considering it had happened so many years ago, it was likely they would never fade. If only for an instant, Alco thought that the wild scars left on his skin suited his lean body perfectly.
確かに、あまり気持ちのいいものじゃないな。自分の部屋で着替えるべきだった。
Sodro sounded slightly ashamed as he put on his shirt, looking at Alco standing there in cold silence. The two girls had no response. Sodro headed for the stairs to go back to his room.
ちょっと待って、宗十郎。
Sodro stopped and turned around.
なんていうか。
Alco looked away awkwardly, apparently not knowing why she had stopped him herself.
なんか青崎らしくない。さっきから変だけど、熱でもあるんじゃないのか？あれから満足に寝てないだろう、二人とも。
He was, of course, referring to the final exams. From Sojo's perspective, the amount of work Aoko put in seems strange.
熱なんてないったら。そうじゃなくて。どうしてこんなところで着替えてたのよ、あんたは。
Aoko was doing her best to keep up appearances, but for some reason, Sojo was hesitant to say too much more.
それは言いづらいんだが、下着の管理はきちんとした方がいいと思う。どっちだ
Oh.
かは知らないけど。
Alice, who had been completely silent behind Aoko, couldn't resist responding to that statement. Although she hadn't wanted to get involved, this was something she couldn't ignore.
言っておくけど、それは青子だから。
Mm-hmm. Alice's response was quick and to the point.
洗濯の当番は確かに私だったけど。
Aoko seemed like she was just holding back, going
とに
critical.
かく、もうすぐアルバイトだから着替えてくる。
Sensing that those two were probably about to get into an argument, Sojiro took his chance to leave. And with that, Sojiro briskly left the scene.
アリス。
とりあえず、片付けてくるわ。
Alice calmly walked into the bathroom. A few minutes later, just as the two were about to head out and fulfill their duties as mages, Aqua remembered something she wanted to ask.
そうだ、アリス。傷ってあれのこと？
あれは傷跡じゃないわ。
What? Oh, why did you not finish your
だっ
sentence?
て、あんなにも誇らしいもの。
Ako agreed. What had impressed her the most about those scars was how he treated them simply as a part of his past, absent of any regret. Ako wouldn't have gone so far as to say he was proud, but it seemed her instincts had been correct. That and one more thing.
でも一つだけはっきりしたわ。それじゃあ、不覚にも見惚れてたのは私一人じゃなかったってことよね、アリス。
Ako smiled wryly at Alice, like a child who knew they were doing something they shouldn't with their friend. Alice was trying to ignore her as best she could. She looked away without saying a word. That is a new expression. Ako let out a satisfied snicker and began walking towards the front door.
じゃ、行こうか。まずはあの公園からでいいでしょ。今回の件は、あそこから全てが始まったわけだし。
She was talking about the local park in Misaki. The place where they had run into the enemy puppets, and of course, where their involvement with Sojiro had all began. Well, methinks that this might be a good place for us to call it. It's a good little natural transition point. Thank you all for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time for some more Witch on the Holy Night, where we'll see maybe... Oh, it sounds like if it's early the next morning, it sounds like we're just jumping ahead to the results, so we'll see. We'll see. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.